Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the And Both podcast. This week, I'm bringing you the most downloaded episode in all 87 episodes of the And Both podcast. This one is with Abby Wachoff. She is an OT, big hearts for me for that, who in this episode, we discuss the experience of navigating parenting while also navigating her sister's cancer diagnosis and ultimate passing related to that cancer. And so this is one of the first episodes that I did where we tackled like kind of a pretty heavy topic and a pretty heavy topic head on. And I was blown away at the time that it was responded to so significantly by listeners of the show. But I continue to be blown away because although all of these episodes all have a pretty constant theme, a pretty kind of evergreen theme, so to speak, this is the one that it is still one of the most downloaded episodes. And we recorded it, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago or maybe a year ago. And I just think that speaks to the power of having these difficult conversations and people wanting to hear other people experiencing stuff that's really significant. We've had some episodes on this show of people talking about their journey with cancer, but this is the first one where the topic was, how do I do all of the things I need to do as a mom while also being a grieving human and also having my whole life completely upended? And this notion that no matter what is going on in your life, motherhood is a clock that stops for no one. And so it's a really beautiful, wonderful episode. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And here's Abby. Hello, and welcome to the And Both podcast. Here we are going to hear from moms and those in motherhood that are doing the thing that works for them. They are honoring themselves alongside the all-encompassing role and level of expectation that is modern motherhood. And we are going to hear from as many different people as possible in their own experience. So you can find people to relate to. You can hear stories that will make you laugh, make you cry, all of the above, and that we will come together as a community to support one another in a way that is holistic and honoring of the woman and the mother as a whole. Hello, and welcome back to the And Both podcast. I am here today with Abby Wachoff, and she and I are going to, well, right now we're laughing, but we have really deep things to talk about, and no sarcasm there. So first of all, I wanted to say hello, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so then I guess there's really let's just take the Band-Aid right off.
Let's do it.
And if you want to introduce yourself and a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you came into the space that you are in.
Yeah. So as mentioned, I'm Abby. I am a mom of two. I've got two boys who are 7.5 and 4.5. That's like my mom life. And then I'm an occupational therapist. I've been doing that for, I think, a little over 15 years and done all kinds of different settings, bopped around from hospital to home health, all the things in between. And after I became a mom, I got very interested in working in women's health because I saw some major gaps in the transition to motherhood, from the physical to the mental to the logistical. Like, we just weren't being cared for. So I jumped into that world a few years ago and was starting up my own business, Mother Lover, and was super passionate, had the fire beneath me. And then my older sister got sick. She suddenly had cancer, and less than 2 years later, she was gone. And so in those 2 years, I didn't have space in my mind, my life, my heart, all the things for the business side. And now that I'm about 2 years out from losing her, I'm rethinking everything and going back to grad school and starting all over with kind of a new passion that I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah. What are you going back to school for?
So I'm going to get an additional master's in mental health counseling. So turning my focus, I'm still going to continue and maintain my license as an occupational therapist, of course, but bringing in more of the mental health side of that. I also, during all of this, became trained and certified in pre and postnatal yoga. Also did a perinatal mood disorder certification through Postpartum Support International. So this feels kind of like the final piece of putting together how I want to support women and new moms.
I love it. I love that. I think that, OT and mental health it's sort of like the trifecta, right? Like when you go into school, there's 3 lanes. Like I think we sort of, we must have graduated around the same time, but like you go into school and there's 3 lanes. You can work in physical dysfunction. You can work in like assistive technology and those pieces, and you can work with kids that that assistive tech kind of goes with a lot of that. And then you can work in mental health. And the roots of OT are mental health, which
Right.
I absolutely love, because I think that like that idea of doing something that is facilitating any sort like a physical requirement, and understanding that there is a mental component as well that goes into that. And
there always is.
There always is.
You can't parse those 2 things apart. And I was really interested. And so when I first started in the women's health world, I went to pelvic floor courses and was really interested in kind of being one of the like OTs who were taking over the world of pelvic floor dysfunction and that kind of thing, which I'm still into and know about. But I find that's what's missing in that world is that psychosocial piece of it. Like, okay, like this part of your body has changed. I don't necessarily know that I want to fix it, but like, how do you feel about it? And like, how are you going to like what is that doing to you every day? And like how you're thinking about yourself as a woman, as a mother, as a person. So, and it's just taken me all these various fits and starts and stumbles and my own personal tragedy to realize that that's what I actually care about and want to support and work with.
Yeah. And I think too, like for me, when I worked in inpatient, like that is never more glaring than like, you go in to see somebody, and this is why like pelvic floor, I'm like, PT, you can have that, right? Because they're like, this is a problem. I have a solution. Here are your exercises. This is what you need to do, right? And that seems to be very, very along the lines of like, I need to get into my house. I need to be able to walk up and down the stairs, right? So that I'm like, okay, that's good. Like you guys can, that's yours. However, I need pelvic floor therapy. Okay. So what are the things, where are you noticing that this is happening? And how can we talk about the activities surrounding that and what that means to you, and how we can like change routines, or how we can like modify things? And I'm like, oh, I have OT lenses on and I cannot take them off no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And my own experience, my first birth was a delivery with forceps, and you can look at the statistics on that. I have all kinds of pelvic floor issues as a result of that. And so I did go to pelvic floor PT, which has absolutely helped me in so many ways. But I did feel that piece of like, I felt emotionally really messed up about it. Like my body is broken. Okay, I can do these exercises. I can do these things to maintain my body and whatever for my lifestyle, but I have to like live with this new body. And I wasn't expecting that. And no one had told me that might happen. And all the things, I felt like that component was missing with some of the practitioners I've seen. Not all, but yeah, I think we need a little bit more of like, what does that make you feel?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because that's true. Like you're seeing the person as a person and not like a set of pelvic floor exercises. And that's not to say like one is better than the other, because I think there are, some people that are like, I just need this problem to be solved.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. We needed something for everybody. Mm-hmm. I'm somebody who's like really introspective and like, I want to pick apart like all of that stuff and like, why do I feel this way? And what do I do with those feelings? Where if you just want to like get those exercises so you're not peeing your pants, like there's a therapist for that, there's a place for all of us.
Yeah. The whole spectrum. We need the whole spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so for school, I think
Mhm.
I think that's amazing because you're really just like, you know yourself and you know yourself as a therapist and how you want to show up. And given the experience of losing your sister, to be able
Mhm.
to sort of weave all of that together, pardon the great OT term, but like weave all of that stuff together in a way that you're taking your experiences and helping others move forward, but really understanding the problem
Mhm.
inside and out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I realized, so I'd been working at inpatient acute care for several years. And so obviously when someone has cancer, there's a lot of interaction with hospitals. And so I was seeing this from a different perspective as a caregiver, as a loved one. And I saw my sister pass away in the hospital, and I was just like, I can't keep doing that. Like I don't want my days to be filled with reminders of what that looked like, sounded like, smelled like, all those things, right? So this past year, I gave a try in schools. I was like, I'm just going to really change it, and I did the pediatric thing, and pretty quickly, I was like, this was a good like reset, like good change, but it's not quite it. And through just this whole process and my own therapy, I've come to really realize like, no, this is what I want to be talking to people.
Mhm.
I want to be, yeah, sitting and holding space and facilitating others doing some deep thinking that I've kind of been forced to and have come to like doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so
Hmm.
I think that when you and I had originally connected and talked about this, it was talking about grief and motherhood. And you write a lot about that and about how that works because there is this idea of motherhood is this constantly moving train because it is. And that like the train waits for nobody.
Mhm.
And grief is like a platform along the track, right? Where it's like everything stops with grief. Like when somebody
Yes.
passes, it's like everything stops, the lights go off, the lights go on, whatever that means to you, and it's just like, hold on, I got to sort this out. Like, you've gone
Yeah.
through the process of like other certifications and going back to school and having a whole lot of like conversations or internal check-ins to figure out what that is. And so how does the OT in you take a look at that process and that experience of grief and motherhood?
Yeah. I mean, boy, it is in like the moving train symbolism is spot on, and there is no stopping it, right? So, and like for me with the process of my sister becoming ill, she, was sick, and then she never really got better. We were always in this place of like taking care of her next steps and figuring out. And she lived in New York City. I'm based in the Chicagoland area. And so I was having to fly back and forth every couple months with two little kids who were, what were they then? I guess 1 and 4 and then 2 and 5 when she passed away. So that like just logistically thinking about like as an OT, we're like, it's kind of a logistics game, right? Like how are we get these jobs done and these roles that we play. But then suddenly I had this entirely new role of caregiver, of griever. Like my role as a sister became much more front and center as opposed to, I mean, I'd always been a sister, but it became this thing that was much more taking up a greater percent of my pie.
Mhm.
And there's only so much time in a circle. And so what do I give? Like where do what's the release valve to give myself space and time? And I had to really I would guess I wouldn't say forgive myself because I didn't necessarily put a lot of guilt, but I had to allow myself to be like, okay, I'm not maybe going to be the best version of a mom today, or I have to just be okay with we're just cobbling this together and that's as good as it's going to be, or my kids are just going to have to watch some TV because I need to be in the other room crying, or whatever it's going to be. I can't be all of it at once, and recognizing that was the only way through it, because I think if you just are, you put that guilt on, and expectations stay the same in the setting of impossible circumstances, you will only feel like a failure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the analogy of the pressure valve is so it's so it's something that everyone can relate to in so many different ways. And I think that, it's that idea of like grief and loss are hard stops where you're confronted with like the reality of like it's pie, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
like the never ending like scarves out of the tissue box. Like this is pie. You've only got so much.
Right.
And when something out of your control changes the size of your slice, you've got to
Right.
this idea that you cannot just keep going. However, you run into the messaging of like super mom and like how do you do it
Mm.
all and like how can you be more
Right.
efficient and all of those pieces. It's like, wait.
And that's where in my pie, my business was really the thing that I had to just admit to myself. I don't have any time. I don't have space. I don't have emotional, logistical capacity to nurture that.
Mhm.
And that was an additional grieving. That was an additional grief because I was very excited about this new path I was going down. And I was just like on kind of like the cusp of like really doing it. And then I just couldn't. And there was just no way. I just couldn't. And admitting that to myself and just knowing that I was going to say, okay, I'm going to put this on the side when I come out of this. Whenever, whatever happens, I'll have to just rethink and see where I'm at. And never in a million years did I think where I would be was like, let's go back to grad school at 41 and with two kids, like, but also like losing my sister she was 43 when she passed. I'm like, I could have like another 40 years or so that she's not getting. I can't not do what I want to do. And like now or never, like, here we go. Like, okay, that was something I wanted to do. It doesn't quite feel right, but I know that this is the path that I want to go. And if I don't do it now, time's just falling away. And I owe it to me. I owe it to her to make whatever years I have meaningful and in line with what I believe I should be doing.
Yeah. I also too think
Mm.
about the phenomenon of like, if you are looking at it like pie, right? Like your sister takes up so much of that and then she's not here, the pie doesn't shrink, right? So now it's not like, I can't imagine that you change anything you'd change anything to have her back, right? Like that's a
Yes.
known. And but given that slice of pie that was dedicated to her, it's like you take that thought about that and say like, she's not here, but if I had her, if this is her slice of pie of time, like you just
Hmm.
explained that, right? Like if this is her slice of pie of time, I'm going to do school, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, all of this stuff. And you know that you have the capacity to show up in that way because you had the capacity to show up in that way for her for that time.
Yeah, it's like in her absence, the slice is still there. It's
Yes.
still, it's she didn't leave this earth and then okay, I've got all that time back. Like at first that slice had to be like laying in bed and doing lots of crying and not working as much that first 6 months or whatever. Like I had to really like dedicate time to just be completely devastated. And as time has gone on, like there is still that. I still have times like that. But that slice is now, okay, putting meaning to that loss, like for my own life, in my own life. Like, what do I do with this
Mhm.
newfound knowledge? And still, there's still energy going towards that, whether it's, July is the month that she passed away. So like a lot of feelings are coming up. So that space and energy is going to be a little different than when I start grad school. And, so it's kind of just accepting like, oh, this is going to be a month where this is where my energy has to be. And that's okay if like the house is trashed, if my kids aren't like I'm not providing all these enriching experiences or whatever. It's like, okay, I just have to like allow myself to be wherever I am.
Mhm. Yeah. And I wonder about like, or I don't wonder about, I think that what is interesting is, so I have my own grief experience. I don't know if we talked about this ahead of time. Maybe
I
not.
think
I don't.
how we connected, Allie had told me.
Yeah. So my dad died shortly before Christmas of last year, rather abruptly by suicide.
Mm.
And so it's kind of it's one of these things where it's like a way to, like, the way that people like talk about it and the way that people talk, like, there's so much discomfort in our society around dying. And
Mhm.
then I think that gets magnified when it is in a way that's like not acceptable. We totally call that not acceptable. Do not
Yeah.
agree. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Uh,
Would not choose
but
that.
yeah, no, not recommend. But I think that the idea of one of the reasons why I was like, I would really love for you to come on and I really want to talk to you, because that like that encounter of like the train is moving, and although like my relationship with my dad was very complicated, and there's a lot of things that like did not get, there's no like hallmark ending
Right.
in that type of
Tied
situation.
up with a nice bow. Like, no.
No, like bedside conversation piece like that of like tying all the ends together, right? But you have this phenomenon where like that person passes, you find out that person passes, or you're there when that person passes, and then you leave the room and you walk out into the world, and your center has just shifted, and like somebody walks by you and is like, "Hey, do you know what time it is?" And you're like, "How could I even possibly care
Right.
right now?"
Yeah.
Or like you go to bring your kids to, the museum, and someone is like really unfriendly because they're having a bad day or whatever, and you just like you want to be like,
You have
we
no
all
idea.
have a lot of yeah, we all have a lot of stuff going on, but like
Yeah.
right now I hazard to guess that my stuff is kind of big, and like
Right. Right.
it's that it- like your time moves slowly and everyone else is still going at the same speed, and how do you get back up to speed, because people are never going to slow down.
I don't know if you ever do. I'm 2 years out. I'm like, I still like, there's times like, when you were saying that, I was like nodding enthusiastically. Like, it's a very, I remember feeling like I was in a fishbowl. Like,
Mhm.
I am alone here. Everything looks kind of like blurry, but it's all still going on. And then
Mhm.
people like come in, like, so my sister passed away, and me and my brother-in-law, we just were like, okay, what do we do now? Got on an elevator, grabbed an Uber, and like we were going across the Brooklyn Bridge, and it was like a lovely night. And we were just like, wait, like what happened? Like the world just exploded for me. Like everything is crumbling, but like, look at this beautiful night. And sometimes I think that shift is a forever shift, because I still will feel myself like in that fishbowl, like amongst friends and community. Like we're talking about camps and school and like kid stuff, right? Like the chatter with moms and stuff. And sometimes I'm just like, I feel myself kind of pull back and I'm just like, I do not care. Like none of which is a gift, I think, because it really has helped me with perspective and being present and just like not sweating the small stuff, for lack of a, better cliche. But I don't know. I don't know if that ever goes away. There's always that little bit of like, I feel othered now because of
Mhm.
this thing that has happened. And I find when I meet other people who have had that experience, I guess I want to be with you. I want to talk with you. Like you get it, like this weird, crazy experience of before and after. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think, yeah, like it's like I don't know, it's sort of like you're playing, like we're all playing chess, right? In life, we're all playing chess. We all have all these different pieces. So we have like, the parts that move in this way and the parts that move in this way, and the pieces are the relationships that we have in our life. So like we have parents and we have siblings and we have children and all of that, right? And it's like somewhere along the line, one of those pieces gets removed. So
Mhm.
like your sister piece gets taken off the board. My dad piece gets taken off the board. And it's like you encounter all these people that want to play chess all day long and they have a full setup and they're
Right.
looking at, but like they can't see your board because unless
Yeah.
you tell people about this, unless, like I've run into people, I live in the town that I went to high school with, and I run into people that moved away and they come back and they'll say, they talk about like their parents or whatever, and they'll say like, "Hey, like, how are your parents?" And I'm like, -1. And it's like, then you run into that idea of like, wait, are we now I'm at an age where like parents are passing away,
Right.
but like my grandparents lived to be in their late 90s. So like this is not a foregone conclusion. This was an elective choice. And then so I find myself often where I'm like, yeah, yeah, no, that happened. But like I don't necessarily get into the details because there's that certain level of like, you are not going to understand. And also
Yeah.
like, I
I
don't
find
want you to
myself
try and talk.
I find myself like diving in, like I kind of like I introduced the fact that my sister's gone. I think it comes up quickly for me in new conversations. And I don't know if I just think for me it has informed so much of my life in the last couple of years. And I can't like chit chat about for me, I just feel like I don't want to like chit chat with you if you don't understand like the perspective that I'm coming from. And I think
Mhm.
it's a very different thing because like you said, there's a stigma with how your dad passed as opposed to my sister died of cancer, which is not like bummer, but everybody's doing it these days.
Awful.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I have found and I know some people are very private. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, this is what has happened to me and this is why I am who I am and this is how I'm going to show up and like you need to know that up front. And if that
Mhm.
doesn't you like peace.
Yeah.
'Cause this is the way it is. So I've been very like forthcoming and my Instagram was always dedicated to my business and I was very like mom stuff, like that was the content. And I just found once she was gone, I was like, I just want to share my grief. And this is a way that I can communicate that to people. And this is just where I'm at. And if you don't want it, unsubscribe or whatever, like I,
Mhm.
I, I can't be anything else. I'm not somebody that can show up and just pretend that that's not my reality. And for some people, that's the way you got to do it is to just kind of like put your head down and go through. But I'm just like, I can't move forward ignoring the fact that this has happened to me. Like I am who I am because of this experience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I also like, I feel like there is a huge connection between our experiences, which seem very like I am not like it's not something that I hide. It's not something, it's just like, and because I live where I grew up, like a lot of people sort of know,
Mm.
but it's this idea, like I have no shame around his decision, is how I
Right.
look at it,
It's
right?
not your
Like,
well, yes.
it's not me. But I also think about like both of our perspectives seem to be in the idea of like we cannot exist separate of this because it is part of the whole. And ding, 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 we're both occupational therapists who have a
Yeah.
deep fundamental understanding that we are the sum of all of the different aspects of us, and how those things intersect is actually what creates the whole versus my pelvic floor is separate from my knee.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that's a gift when you are looking at grief.
Yeah. I do too. And I think it's something I want to share with others. I've seen people, yeah, I've known people that have gone through things and it's like, well, okay, we're going to package this up and put it somewhere, but that's never the reality of what we're doing. Like we are this complex amalgamation of all the various experiences, visions, everything we've seen and done is part of who we are in this moment. Like
Mhm.
the moment's going to include this one, right? Like we can't course, that's wisdom. That's life. And I welcome that.
Mhm. And the doing that interfaces with the being,
Mhm.
right? So like the doing of things and the day-to-day life interfaces with who you are and how those things come together
Mhm.
so that you can move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And how can it not? How can choices not be made from a place of using all those experiences, right? Like if you deny that piece of yourself, then are you really making decisions based on your truths, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it has to. It's all there, and to deny it is to deny who you are. I think.
I think too, like the interesting piece is like, OT started with the military
Yeah.
and how like the idea was like these people just had this experience, this massive experience, which involves grief, trauma, loss, like all of that stuff. And we have tried to like bring them back and put them back out into their lives. And it's not working.
Right.
Nothing is
Well,
working.
now,
So like,
yeah, it can't be the same. Like before and after cannot look the same. There has to be. It's change. It's evolution. Yeah.
yeah. And so then it's like, well, what do we do? And then you bring in this whole group of people that becomes this whole practice of these are the things that these are the ingredients of you as like, pie. These are the ingredients. And how do we move to a different place given these are your ingredients? And some things are taken out and some things are added too. And the way that we move to a different place is through doing, but
Right.
also recognizing that once something happens, like you have a hard stop like grief, you have to give space for that to happen
Yeah.
and give space to like live in that experience to then move back into the doing.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes the grief and the stop is the doing, like allowing yourself to do that. And I think in the context of motherhood, that's we've already kind of touched on that. That's counterintuitive to what we are supposed to be doing,
Mhm.
supposed to in air quotes, like motherhood is doing. Motherhood is adulting. It's doing all the things, but sometimes you have to actively let yourself not do, and that is a doing. If that makes
Yes.
sense.
It does too. And I think too, like I just recorded another episode not that long ago, and we were talking about the pause as the boundary. And I just think it's so interesting that like because we live in a world and in a society that values like forward motion, speed, agility, and like just sort of overcoming all the things,
Yeah.
but that we're not acknowledging the power of the pause and the power of the stop and the power of like right now I can't.
Yeah.
And that the wave of realization around that is it seems to be like that's kind of in a lot of places. That's in parenting spaces, motherhood spaces, caregiving spaces, all of that. And it's saying like, okay, we have to come up with a different way to do this. And we can't add another tool. We can't add another program. We can't do this stuff. So like what
Right.
is the thing that we need to do really and truly if we look at ourselves? And it is stop.
Stop. Yes.
But
Yes.
everything else is telling us to go.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's why I have leaned into sharing my experience, and not just like the basics of it, but like what I'm feeling and where I'm at. I have leaned into that, and what I have found in response is so much positive feedback. Like, thank you for talking about this. Like, no one talks about it
Mhm.
like this. No one is honest. I just so many people have reached out like that knew my sister or didn't know my sister, and they're just appreciative that like I'm showing up and being like, this is messed up, and I just need to like take a pause and being honest about it. I think it serves others when we can be authentically where we are and allow ourselves to do what we need to do. Not to say that that is easy. I mean, I there were times like in the early days of grief where I was just like, I need to get it together. And like to some extent maybe true, but like also, no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Right.
He's fine.
Together
He's
to
fine.
do what?
Yeah, like to do what? But allowing that pause is like also like, okay, in that pause, I can be like, to do what? Like, I reevaluating, self-evaluating, like our own like internal monologue and like what we're telling ourselves, and like, where is that coming from? Who is that actually telling me I need to get it together? Because I don't. Like,
Yeah.
it's a complicated web of like what society is telling us and how that becomes our internal monologue and deciding what we do with that. Like, do we believe that? Or do we say, screw you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually just stay rooted in this, like what I need to be doing.
Yeah. I'm going to be sad now because I am
I'm
sad.
just gonna be
And
sad. Yeah, because
yeah.
this sucks.
Hmm. Yeah. It's that idea of like, whose measuring stick are we using? Because when you use the measuring stick that you are being handed by society, social media,
Hmm.
practices, whatever, long-standing belief systems,
Hmm.
that's that's the should metering stick versus the one that you have inside of you, which is where there's often conflict, I think, right? Because it's like,
Yeah,
I need to stop now and I need to not do this because this is how I'm going to take care of myself. Whereas
yeah.
someone's like, you should get back on the horse, or you should, whatever. And you're like, the horse
And
is
that's
left.
where I have felt like, ah, like you said earlier, I would give anything to have my sister back. Like that woman was my person, my best friend. This world needed that woman. Was amazing. But at the same time, like the loss of her has been in some ways this gift. The experience has really taught me about like screw the measuring stick. I mean, I think
Yeah.
as moms and more with social media, all the things, right? Like that measuring stick has gotten more scrutiny. Like we have to measure up, and like realizing that like, man, there's so much more that this experience that I went through of losing somebody has taught me like, screw the measuring stick. Like I'm just gonna be where I'm at. And if, you know, I can strive for something or meet this expectation, that's because like it's coming from me, not from someone else's expectation. And if I'm
Mhm.
way under, like that's also okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the shock to the system where you sort of like, like that lemmings game, right? Like you just sort of follow along and then something happens and you're like, I
Yeah.
don't even want to be in this line.
Yeah. Oh, and I can choose that. Like I have a choice.
Mhm.
I get to actually decide what's important, what's not. And that's a gift. Again, a gift that I'd rather not have, but a gift nonetheless.
Yeah. And so what does that mean for you in terms of like taking care of you now? Because I think like that's one of those things where when you're in the trenches of a 2-year long caregiver cancer
Hmm.
situation, that like the self-care is like remember to pack my toothbrush, right? And like self-care is bogus in terms of like the grander scheme of things.
Right.
So like instead of self-care, I'm going to start calling it caring for yourself because that's actually what you're doing, but self-care is an industry. So,
Okay.
what does that and like so going into that process, right? Like there's a way where you look at things and you take care of yourself and all of those pieces that like some of it we touched on. But when you come out of that, how does that look to really like do you feel like there's a big impact on like you said like how you develop relationships with people and how what sort of gets put out as the forward facing you and it's like I am showing up more raw potentially than most
Mhm.
people expect, but that is a way of taking care of you in terms of like don't waste my time. I won't
Yep.
waste yours, don't waste mine. And how does it change your perspective on taking care of yourself post that massive grief experience?
Yeah. I think I've been able to center myself a bit more. As women and moms, we're not centered. Our children are centered. Our family is centered, and we're kind of like second thought, I think, for ourselves, but outside of us, that's the perspective. But after going through this, I've really come to realize like I can't have a functioning home, like a good home life, all of that, if I'm like not giving myself the space to grieve. And if I'm not being honest, and you're right, like what caring for myself looks like is just showing up as me. Like I'm just over the pretenses, and I just am who I am. And part of that is this grief, and part of that is what I've been through. And that in and of itself is self-care, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I don't love that that's how you arrive at this experience and that you arrive at this perspective. But I think that there is, and and I hope that you hear it all the time, like the ability to say, to be in a crowd of people and to raise your hand and stand up and say, this shit hit the fan in my
Mhm.
life. And it wasn't a one-time thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's that like holidays, it is the new things that you're doing. It's the like, you know, you're starting school. Who would be the person that
And
you would call?
like
It's
the
that.
role within a family, right? That's also so much of what we talk about in the OT world. Like my role, I was one of two daughters, and now I am an only daughter, and I have grieving parents and grieving people around me. And so like how I also can't be everything for others, and
Mhm.
acknowledging that. And it's really, it's just, it's really taught me to take care of myself, to really like, okay, I can only do what's within my capacity to do, and others may want more from me, but this is all I've got. This pie thing that we keep coming back to, it's like it's finite. We only have so much to give.
Was your sister the oldest?
Hmm. Yeah.
So then also the follow-up to that is how much so your sister has her own. How much of that has any of that do you feel like been sort of transferred down like this was her, like, so your sister undoubtedly being the oldest would have been the one that would have, not undoubtedly, but probably had more of a relationship with the parents where it's sort of like, information disseminates down children, but being
Yes.
the oldest, you
She
get
was
hit with a lot.
she was always like the keeper of things, like the keeper of knowledge within our family for me. Like I would call her like, Brave, who was that? Like, what happened? Her name was Brienne. I have to say her name to make sure but yeah, she was definitely. And so now and I have aging parents, right? Of course, they're fine. They're doing okay, but they're in their 70s. And the reality was always going to be that we were going to take care of them or be there for them together. And that's how we spoke about it. And in my mind, I live closer in proximity. My sister lived further away, but I was like, she was good at like the logistics and making the phone calls and doing the things. And I had a different role, but now my understanding of that and my anticipation of that feels very different
Hmm.
because I'm taking on all of it. It's just me, and it's not just me. It's my husband. It's her husband is or her husband is still very involved in my life and my family's life, and will be part of that. But at the end of the day, like it's me. Like it's just me that's left, and it's daunting and it's tragic and it's just so many things. We were supposed to do this all together, you know.
Yeah. And you also like, at the end of the day, you are in life, generally stuff rolls down and the person whose lap it lands on is mom.
Hmm.
And so you guys had two laps at the bottom of it. And
Yeah.
now and you're
Right.
still like you are mom, you are a mom. And it is again like another level of all of these people are around me and all of these people can help. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be the one that's holding the clipboard.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. On multiple fronts. And I think that's a conversation even just like outside of grief, like this generation of us that had kids a little later in life, right? I was like in my mid to upper 30s when I had kids. My parents are in their 70s now and I have little kids. So that it's this like middle generation, like as my parents get older and need more help, whatever that looks like, who knows how that's going to roll out, but I'm still going to have young kids that are involved.
Mhm.
Like it's this, and that was again supposed to be divided out a bit more between me and my sister. But I think about it as sometimes, and honestly, I kind of like put my head in the sand because like the thought of that is a little overwhelming, and there's nothing I can do about it right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to stay here in this present
Mhm.
moment, and we'll deal with that when it comes.
Yeah. When
Whatever that is.
yeah, the rising sandwich caregiver generation.
Yeah, yeah, and it feels extra heavy for me because I never expected to. You have a sibling so that you don't have to do it on your own. And for me, and my mom is an only child and always has been, and I see her care. My grandmother is 92 or 3,
Mhm.
and I see the strain on her as an only child taking care of her mother, and it's seeing that, and it being the not a mirror for my present, but a mirror for my future. And it's okay. How am I going to do this different? How am I going to do this? Like, what is this going to look like? Oh God, oh God.
Mhm.
Stay here. I'm going to stay here in this moment because that's too much to even
Right.
really, think about.
Yeah, it's like all the plates are gonna spin at the rate that they're gonna spin at, and it's
Yeah.
like you can't.
Can't control the spin, but can kind of control what you do and who you hand the plates to and like how you know, delegate or don't.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, or don't get a chance to, and that's the piece.
Yeah.
Do you think that going forward, like are you still are you circling back on motherhood in terms of like working with that?
So I think so. I'm
Yeah.
kind of I'm wanting to leave myself very open to the experience of going through grad school process again, and open to what other kind of like populations and people I might be interested in working with. But it still very much holds true that like that's who I like to work with, even in my community, moms who are going through things. And I'm at the age where now everyone's like getting divorced or having, there's all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, from my OT lens, I really like to like help with like talking about the logistics of things and practicality of things, but bringing in more of the mental health stuff. It's still what I think I'm pretty passionate about, but I don't want to put any expectations on myself because as I know, shit changes and
Mhm.
plans change. So I think that's where my I think ideally I want to have a private practice and I think that's where it will go, but I don't know. Let's talk in like 5 years. Who knows?
Yeah.
And that's
But
what
that's
I've learned to feel like. It's just like I can plan for like the next 6 months. I thought 5 years ago, 10 years ago, my career would look very different than what it is now. And like that's okay. It's not better or worse, or it just is. So
Mhm.
I'm just trying to stay really present with the process, and we'll see.
I think that's the important takeaway, right? Is present is that like
Yeah.
when we live in these tracks of like the next thing, the next milestone, the next whatever, and then you encounter this massive thing that stops everything, and it's that reminder like I've gotta be in this moment right now. And so like from your perspective of taking that piece and applying it, I mean it's been 2 years, which is like a second, really,
Right.
in the grand scheme of things. And probably feels like a second at some
Yeah.
points in time. And giving yourself space to feel that way and giving yourself space to take care of yourself when you feel that way. And also having that be the reminder of staying in the present, even though it may feel like everything is kind of going so fast. And it's like,
It's all we've got. Like, that's like again, it's like cliche, but like all we have is right now, Like that's why I'm not really an anxious person. I'm not a big worrier because like what's the point in that? What's that going to do? It's going to make my present moment suck. And that's all I've got. So, I
Right?
mean, I'm just going to do the next thing, like make the next choice that feels right. And then I'll deal with the present that comes in the future. I don't got time for it right now because all I have is
Yeah.
right.
I love
And
it.
that's really, again, been the gift of this terrible loss. And it feels so strange to say that because I lost, like, really the next to my spouse and my kids, like the most important person in my life. But it teaches you something about how you're going to live the rest of your life, you know?
Mhm. And how we are all like, this isn't forever.
Nope.
Like, today isn't forever. And like,
No.
when you have, when stuff is great, then it's not forever. And I think that's the thing is like, people try and hold on to the good being forever. But it's easier to feel like the bad is going to be forever.
Yeah.
And nothing is forever.
This too shall pass, and it's for the good and the bad. So enjoy it when it's good and acknowledge that it will pass, and survive when it's bad and know that it will pass. This too
Mhm.
shall pass. Kind of been my mantra for many years.
Yeah. My parenting mantra when my kids were little, like my youngest is 4 now, but when I was sort of like in the goop of it
Mhm.
was, yesterday was easiest.
Yeah.
And it's like the tomorrow is going to be hard. Yesterday was easiest. And like
Yeah.
that's it. Like because I am here today from yesterday. So
Yeah.
whatever it was, like I got here and it's fine.
Yeah. Here we are.
So,
Nothing is wasted. That was so when after my sister passed away, me and her husband and my mom were going through all of her things, and she was just a voracious writer. She journaled all the time, and we found like her journals. And the very last page of one of her journals, all by itself, it just said nothing is wasted. And and that has been this thing that has kind of buoyed me. Like losing her is it's not a waste, right? It's not all bad. There's something with everything. Nothing is wasted. Every experience provides you with something, right? So I have that tattooed on my leg now in her handwriting to remind me all the time, like nothing is for nothing. Like it's
yeah.
all gotten you, every step gets you to wherever you're going. It's
Mhm.
very woo woo, but man, I've become woo woo since
But
losing her.
like, yeah, I mean, you find
It's
that on the
also
last
just
page
like
of a
for
journal.
real. Like it's just
Yeah.
like this is what's up. Like it's true. Like these are the facts.
Yeah. Like, all right, sis, I get you. Like, message received. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I,
And it was just like
those,
this one page with one writing with a period. I was like, got you, girl. Like you're right. And that's what I'm gonna keep reminding myself.
I love that. Oh my gosh. That gives me goosebumps to just think, like, when people have those like moments of perspective,
Mhm.
it's like, and then they impart them upon you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm,
And
I'm,
she definitely wrote that while sick and knowing that she was terminally ill, and nothing's wasted. Yes. Nothing is. Like even those moments of suffering for her, mm, I don't know. Nothing's wasted. It's all just steps on the path.
Mm. Well, I think that what you're doing is incredible. I think that, I meet a lot of people in doing this and in doing the work of, life and all of those things. But I think that every once in a while, there's sort of this like, what is it? Like, like antennas line up or something, right? It's like you see something and you're like, I have to like hear this person's story and I have to know this. And there are parts that I can definitely relate to, but it's also this level of awareness of self and the level of awareness of what is important, what is not important, how to take an experience that is unbelievably terrible and
Garbage.
not like the silver lining piece because I think
Yeah.
the silver lining is like, yeah, it's we're putting lipstick on a pig. But to say, how do I take this experience and what do I glean from this experience so that I can go forth and be better? And it's stuff like remembering the present and remembering like to have compassion for yourself. And on top of that, it's to be the person who stands in the room and says, this shit happened to me and
take me or
this is
leave
who
me.
I am. Yeah. I just like, I can't.
It's a bit like, oh, I don't have to worry about what anyone thinks anymore. Like, this is just it. Take it or leave it.
It's like every lady that you've worked with that's over the age of 85 and they're like, honey, I don't care about that stuff anymore.
Yes,
And
I
you're
feel like I'm getting that. I do feel like I've gotten a little access to that a little earlier. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like that's who I want to continue to be striving to be.
Yeah. There is nothing more magical than an 85-year-old lady who has had her last
doesn't
like care. Doesn't. The shits have left the room.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Those are my favorite patients to work with.
Those are the best. Those are the ones like, the ones that come with the notes or the caveat or the like side eye and you walk out and you're like, that's my person right there.
Her. I have memories of some of those little old ladies from like back in the day, like early in my career. Like, yes, totally. I love that.
Yeah. So we're all striving to be 85-year-old ladies.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. And thank you for sharing your experience because as much as, you speak about it and things like that, there's an element of like sandpaper to the face that has to come up every time you speak about it. So I think that it's incredibly important to acknowledge that this isn't something that happens separate of you. This is something that happens because it is a part of you. And so I think that it is incredibly brave and selfless to share like such a raw piece of yourself with people. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me and creating the space to talk about it because it's a bit of sandpaper, but it's also a balm to be able to talk about how I'm feeling and also just to talk about my sister. She is and was, and the more I can speak about her and my experience, she still exists, and that feels good.
Keeps her going.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me.
Yeah. Thank you.